I've watched, I don't know, maybe I've watched a million baseball games in my life. But today, for some reason, I forgot the main reason why baseball is the greatest game of them all.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Find us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I am your pal, Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, but the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTubes, and leave a message for me there. And if you post something anywhere, make sure to put that hashtag EverydaySully because, well, it helps us find you. That's right, we're going to find you. Actually, it helps us find your comments, which I'm the most interested in. Well, let's go through the trivia question. We talked a little bit about Barry Bonds yesterday. It was a celebration of the anniversary of the first home run of his major league career, and we all celebrate in our own way. The question I had was, who gave up the last home run in Barry Bonds' career? Who gave up the final home run in Bonds' career? And it was Devin Stafford who picked it up, and kind of got why I brought him up. Devin Stafford said, Ubaldo Jimenez of the famed unstoppable Rockies. That's right. Ubaldo Jimenez, who gave up a much more famous home run to Encarnacion to end the wild card game in 2016, which was one of the worst managerial decisions of the 21st century. It was by Buck Showalter, who was a fine manager, but he did not bring in Britton, who had a Cy Young caliber season as a relief pitcher, had Ubaldo Jimenez, who's saving Britton for the save situation that never occurred. But we got stuff to talk about today. Oh, by the way, happy birthday to former Giants hurler Russ Ortiz. Russ Ortiz, who is a fine pitcher, won 21 games for the Giants when they had a phenomenal season in 2003. He was part of a memory that my father, I can honestly say, took to the proverbial, actually won 21 games for the Braves, I'm sorry, in 2003, not the Giants, but he played for the Giants in 2002. And my father took something to the grave, he did, and that was his anger about what happened in a start involving Russ Ortiz. I can honestly tell you, he never stopped talking about it. I think it was the last thing even when my father was starting to fade, he still kept talking about it. That when the World Series, when the Giants were winning in Game 6 of the 2002 World Series against the Angels, Russ Ortiz was pitching into the 7th inning and was pitching a fine ball game, thank you very much. And the Giants jumped all over Kevin Appier, and they had Sean Dunston hit a home run. And then Barry Bonds hit a home run off of Francisco Rodriguez. They made it 3-0. And then the Giants made it 5-0 going into the 7th. And Russ Ortiz had a 5-0 lead with 1 out and 2 on. And Dusty Baker relieved Ortiz. And before he relieved Ortiz, he stopped Ortiz and gave him the baseball as if to say, here's the game ball. There you go. And it was because it was just clear the Giants, it was a coronation. They just need to get, there was 1 out in the 7th. They need to get 8 more outs. And Scott Spezio, who saw 8 pitches, hit a home run that made it a 5-3 game, and the Angels never looked back. And Erstad tied the game in the 8th. Glaus gave them the lead. The Giants lost that World Series. And my dad, who is the biggest Giants fan you'll ever meet, and loved the Giants, and wound up seeing the Giants win 3 World Series titles. And yet, he even seeing them win those 3 titles, and he loved those teams. He loved Lincecum. He loved Bumgarner. He didn't know how to pronounce Bumgarner's name or Lincecum's name for that matter, but it didn't matter. He loved Posey. He loved Sandoval. He loved Freddie Sanchez. He loved Hunter Pence. He loved all those great players he had on that team. Brandon Crawford, he loved. But he still kept harping every once in a while, Dusty, because he believed handing that game ball to Russ Ortiz like it was, it's not a high school game, he said. He believed that sparked the Angels. I always thought that's a little overrated. It's kind of like people talk about the Jason Hayward pep talk during the rain delay in the 2016 World Series. I'm sorry, if you need an action like putting the ball in someone's glove or a pep talk during a rain delay to have you want to win the freaking World Series, I don't buy it. I think that's one of those things that you look at after the fact. But my dad claimed he yelled at the TV when he saw Dusty do that, and he knew they were going to lose at that point. I think I also know the main reason that my father got mad at that and never let it go. Not even 3 World Series titles could he let it go. And that's because my dad loved Barry Bonds. My dad absolutely loved Barry Bonds. My dad would not let us talk at the dinner table when Bonds was up because that was appointment television. And Bonds was a link for my father because my father grew up with the New York Giants when he was growing up in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And Bonds was like a connective tissue to the teams that he grew up with before. And he loved Bonds. He thought Bonds was amazing. And my father would never admit that he even took Flintstones chewables. And Bonds would have been the MVP of that World Series. In fact, I believe he should have been the World Series MVP, even though the Giants lost. He batted .471. His OPS was 1.994. He homered 4 times. And the only reason why he didn't hit more home runs than that is because he was walked 13 times in 7 games. And that was Bonds' chance to not only be the World Series MVP, but to get that ring. My dad felt that it was taken away from him. And he may have been right. You would have thought that time heals all wounds. You would have thought that 3 World Series titles would have healed some wounds. But my dad, who loved the teams that won, but that was the team I think he wanted to win. I think he wanted that squad to win. That was managed by Dusty, that had Jeff Kent, that had Barry Bonds, had a lot of other players he absolutely loved. And Russ Ortiz maybe should have stayed in a batter more, but probably didn't need that game ball. But, Dad, wherever you are, I hope you're okay with what's been happening. All right, I got to be honest with you. There's sometimes I have trouble waking up. You may notice I drop some of these podcasts late. I got to be at school early and I go back and forth, and you need something to pick you up. So it's coffee for me. It's not just a drink. It's a lifeblood, okay? It is what is coursing through my body. And when they take a blood sample, do you know what they find out? They find out my blood type is coffee. So why would I use anything else than Trade Coffee? Trade is the #1 coffee destination in the United States, delivering fresh, incredible coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Now, whether you're a cold brew fan, not for me, or you want to have your best coffee in the morning, that's more for me. They've got a roast that you'll love. Now, look, I took the trade quiz. It only took a minute. And the first bag they sent me was good, but it wasn't perfect. And so, you know what they did? They can trade it and replace it for free and get you another thing of coffee. And then the next batch, I took one sniff and I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, this is the good stuff. This is the good stuff. And so you find the right one. It's like a shoe, but coffee. That should be their tagline. And I love that the prices are comparable to grocery store brands, but the flavor is on a whole other level. So right now, Trade is exclusively offering our customers here at Locked On 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/LockedOnMLB. That's TRAD. That's drink TRADE.com/LockedOnMLB for 50% off your 1-month trial. drinktrade.com/LockedOnMLB. NBA playoffs are going on now. Stanley Cup finals are on right now. And hockey and basketball are great. But baseball is the greatest of them all. And I got confirmation of it today. Now, today was my last day of classes with my kiddos, and I already missed them. And some of you may know I have a student named D, or we refer to him as D because I'm not going to be saying his name on a podcast. We're just going to call him D. And D, like all my kids, are on the spectrum, and he is a huge baseball fan. And I'll play games, especially during lunchtime, on the whiteboard with our projector. And unfortunately, he can't get Dodger games. He's a big Dodger fan. And the Dodgers did play a terrific game this afternoon. But, because blackout rules, God forbid you're able to watch the games anywhere. But I had on, sometimes the game is just on. I'm doing other things, and he'll give me updates. Mr. Sullivan. Astros got to run, Mr. Sullivan. And the first game I had on was Atlanta versus Arizona. And the Braves jumped out to a 6-0 lead. And the Diamondbacks trimmed it down to 6-3, but the Braves scored another run in the 5th and 2 runs in the 6th inning. And at that point, the score was 8-3. The score was 9-3. And Arizona made it 9-4, but then it was 10-4 in the 8th inning. And my buddy D said, "Oh, it's Mr. Sullivan. It's 10-4. It's 10-4." And of course, I'm thinking that's a CB radio score. And I said to him, "All right, D, this game looks like a blowout." And I switched it over as I had a pile of work I had to do for this final day, and I was working with one kid who was having a little bit of a meltdown. That happens in my class. So when Michael Harris II, not the first, but the second, got a base hit to make it 10-4 CB radio score, I flipped it to Kansas City versus St. Louis, which looked like a good enough game. And do you know what? It was a good game. It was a back and forth game. I didn't sit down and watch the whole thing because I actually had to do my job, but I did see it was a walk-off game. However, what I flipped away from, the 10-4 score, was 10-4 going into the 9th inning in Atlanta. The Braves trying to get off the mat after a poor start. And what we all missed, or what I missed, and I feel guilty because I took this away from my buddy D, was confirmation that baseball is the greatest sport of them all. And I said out loud, well, Braves are winning this one. Let me flip to another one. And I forgot. Baseball is the best because you can't take a knee. Baseball is the best because you can't dribble it out. Baseball is the best because you can't put some sort of neutral zone trap and just run out the clock. What you have to do is get those last outs. And then Lourdes Gurriel homered. It's 10-5. Fine. Then Alec Thomas homered with Tim Tawa in front of him. Suddenly it's 10-7. Hello. Ketel Marte, who homered earlier, got an infield hit. Jose Herrera scored. Suddenly it's 10-8. Then Vargas gets a base hit. It's 10-9. And with 2 outs and 2 on, Eugenio Suarez hit a double down the line. And what began the inning as a 10-4 Atlanta lead, the inning finished as an 11-10 Arizona lead. Now, for those of you who follow the Diamondbacks, and Millard, I know you're listening, as you do, you know for a fact that 11 runs does not mean a victory for the 2025 Arizona Diamondbacks. And if you don't believe me, Listen to this particular stat. There have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games that the Diamondbacks have played. No, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. Sorry, 5 games that the Diamondbacks have played this year where they have scored 11 or more runs. 5 games. They have won 2 of them. They are 2-3 in games where they score 11 or more runs. They lost 14-12 to Colorado. They lost 13-11 to the Cubbies, and they lost 14-11 to Los Angeles. They won 10-9 in extra innings against Philadelphia, and they won 11-10 this afternoon. So every single time the Arizona Diamondbacks have put 11 runs on the board, it's been a close game. This is a team that I thought, you thought, we all thought the main strength of this team was going to be their wonderful starting pitching staff. And their wonderful starting pitching staffs has not been a wonderful starting pitching staff. Corbin Burns is hurt right now. Merrill Kelly pitched great the other day, and as did Zach Gallen, but holy cow, their ERAs are kind of sort of inflated. And their bullpen's not exactly on the nose these days. And yet, the Diamondbacks pulled that win out. And yet, the Diamondbacks won a game which, by all accounts, in the 9th inning, well, you know what? You should put that Dusty Baker mentality and give him the game ball. And for that, I have to say I'm sorry, D. I'm sorry that I denied you the chance to see once again why baseball is the greatest sport of them all. Baseball is the greatest sport of them all for many reasons. And I think here's the 3 biggest reasons. 1, you have to win. You can't run out the clock. You can't take a knee. You have to beat them. The other great reason is it's on every day. It's on every day, which means a great blowout victory one day, you got to show up the next. The Yankees had the doors blown off when they lost on that Saturday game, but they came back and they won on Sunday. The Twins have been pummeling the A's like crazy, and then they woke up today and they got pummeled right back. A 9-game losing streak is over in Sacramento because the A's said, we've had it. You've seen situations where a team scores double-digit runs one game and gets shut out the next day. And the other reason why baseball is the greatest game, in my humble opinion, is that when you play it as a youth, everybody gets a turn at bat. Everybody gets a turn at bat. When you play it as a youth, you could be a potential prospect player or a kid who's in there because they're pushed by their dad and they don't really want to be there. When your turn comes up, you got to get the turn at bat and you have a shot. That doesn't happen in soccer. They could not kick the ball to you. They may not pass the ball to you in basketball. You may not get the ball in football, or you may be in a position like a tackle or something like that, where you're not really you're in on the play, but you don't get the glory. And in baseball, you can't always bring your best players. When you score 7 runs in the 9th inning, like Arizona did today, everybody's got to contribute. There's no game like baseball. On every day. Everyone's got to have a shot. You can't just rely on the one superstar. And, you got to win. And if you don't win, they can take it. Doesn't matter what the score is in the 9th. You got to get those 3 outs. And if you can't get those 3 outs, then you lost. I'm sorry, D. We could have had a lot of fun. All right. The NBA playoffs are going on right now. You got yourselves the Oklahoma City Thunder. You got yourself the Indiana Pacers. Think about all the great players who played for the Indiana Pacers. They've never won an NBA title. And Oklahoma City's had some tremendous teams, but they've never won a title in Oklahoma. The franchise won in Seattle. But hey, some franchise is going to really, really love it have a great memory of this NBA final. But if you're not from Oklahoma and you're not from Indiana, well, you could still get super into it thanks to FanDuel. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And you could track the trends of the players. You can see who's getting the rebounds, who's getting them from downtown. And you can combine live prop bets and mid-game because you can see how the action's unfolding. And if you want to get a read on who's heating up, why not back it up with a same-game parlay? How could $200 in bonus bets add to the excitement? That will happen if your first $5 bet wins. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, which is an official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. So we got a couple people here on the live, and I just want to point out, Riley says, how about them? How about demos, y'all? Yeah, that's right, Riley. But Riley also said, thanks for the dagger there. Bring up Baldo over Britain again. Yes, I'm sorry I brought that up. It comes up. And the Goose, Matthew Sukram, chimes in and says, for all the Blue Jay fans, we appreciate Showalter's lapse in judgment. Well, hey, Riley, who's a big Baltimore Oriole fan. Let's talk about them for a second. I had been saying that the Orioles, when they fired their manager, I was making a big call that they should bring in a veteran manager. And I brought up Joe Madden. I also had brought up the possibility of Showalter. Some people like the idea of Showalter. Instead, we got Tony Manzolino, who for the first bunch of games looked like, okay, it's more of the same. But for the last 14 games, the Orioles have won 10 of them. The Orioles are on a little bit of a roll right now. And they are, this is a game they won against the Seattle Mariners, a contending team, a team that's a playoff team. They won 4-3. They won 6 games in a row. And here's what's the part of the recent win streak that should be very encouraging to Riley and other Baltimore fans out there. And that's this. Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman were the big contributors today. The reason why I thought the Orioles were going to do well, they obviously won 100 games in 2023. They won 90-some-odd games last year. They had a ton of young players who I thought, all right, they're all going to take it to that next leap up. But as it turned out, those young players were slumping and slumping badly. But if the Adley Rutschmans and the Gunnar Hendersons of the world will start to play well, and they played well in a game where Cal Raleigh once again showed why he is a all-star this year. That's a good sign for Baltimore. Jackson Holliday got a key walk as well. A lot of things are clicking right now for the Orioles, and the most wonderful news you can have right now is that they're going to be going to Sacramento to play the A's, and the A's won big today. They won big, absolutely clobbering the Minnesota Twins. What was the final score of that game? It was, as my mom would famously say, it was a lot to not enough. It was 14-3, which means the A's 9-game losing streak is over. So there's not that same pressure on the A's to come up with a big win. The Orioles could look at, if the Orioles keep playing winning baseball, the teams that they're chasing are flawed. Now, there are 2 underachieving teams right now in the Royals and the Rangers who I think are going to have a better second half. But the American League is a scrum. And the Orioles may have needed that shakeup. They may have needed to have the moment of Brandon Hyde, just 2 years removed from winning the Manager of the Year and losing his freaking job. Maybe that was something that needed to happen to the Orioles to say, oh, man, we better start taking this season seriously. Because they were playing, I know they had injuries. Every team has injuries. But their starting pitching stunk. Their vaunted bullpen was sporadic, and they weren't getting big hits. And if you can't pitch, you can't relieve, and you can't hit, you're probably not going to win many games. but suddenly they are. And if they can continue this winning streak heading to Sacramento, then things can start to look up for Baltimore. And the game is better when young stars are shining and possibly playing in the postseason. And there are a bunch of potential young stars on this Oriole team. And there you go. They need Adley Rutschman to continue to play well. They need that big time. They need Gunnar Henderson to be that all-star. They need Jackson Holliday to emerge and play a little bit like the old man. They need these things to happen. And maybe it can. So, hey, by the way, I just want to say thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game all night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on this channel, Locked On MLB on YouTube, where we're able to listen to your podcast. By the way, Riley did what I didn't do, which he watched all of Arizona, Atlanta. Absolutely amazing ball game. Well done, Snakes. Yeah, that's what they did. And I should have learned my lesson. Hey, let me pull back the curtain a little bit here. Your pal Sully is going to be on the road for a couple weeks. And so there's going to be a series of evergreen podcasts. So if something really huge happens in baseball, so why doesn't Sully talk about it? It's because I'm on the road, can't really do any shows where I'm going to be. That's right. I'm doing a secret CIA mission on Elephant Island in Antarctica. You can look it up. But I'm going to be suspending the trivia question for a couple weeks until I come back from my trip. But I'm also going to be there's going to be a brand new episode coming in every night for the next couple weeks while I'm away. I recorded one evergreen episode, and an event happened today involving the Chicago White Sox that makes that episode not completely moot, but I have to re-record part of it because, well, what happened in the news today affected that episode. So I'm going to wind up mentioning that. But we'll be going back to the trivia question in a couple of weeks when I come back from my trip from Elephant Island in Antarctica. But talking about how Russ Ortiz and Dusty Baker tormented my father right into the grave, and I blame them for my dad's death, even though he died 19 years after it happened. It was a slow burn. Talking about the Diamondbacks proving to me and D to never give up on a ball game. And Baltimore Oriole fans, look out. There have been stranger things happen than a team coming back from the dead like this. This has been Locked On MLB for the 5th day of June, 2025. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.